So in War Thunder right now, helicopters are a pretty staple part of ground RB. They're fairly easy to counter with things like ADATs and Pantsir and even IFBs like the 2S38 or things like the RDFLT and HSTVL with the proxy rounds, and even other helicopters and aircraft can counter helicopters with fair ease. And helicopters are not necessarily the most modern systems we have in the game. Yes, we have fairly modern ones, but things like the US helicopters are still stuck on older generation Hellfires, and we have older generation targeting systems, and it's not the most modern thing we have in the game compared to other things. And helicopters are now going to possibly become almost unplayable at top tier. I mean, with the arrival of these new AA, the only ones that are going to be able to maybe counter the SPAA is going to be anything that have the spikes or the PARS 3, and that is going to pretty much safely say that US and Russian helicopters, the two most played helicopter nations, are not going to be competitive anymore. And yes, the 2S30, or not the 2S30, the Ka-52 and, the Ka-52 and Ka-50 have been very, very broken for a long time, and then they've remained to be so. But things like the American Apache, or the American Zulu, or even the Blackhawk, I'm not sure how they're supposed to compete in a new era of SPAA. I think the addition of fire and forget Hellfires for the United States would definitely help out the helicopter gameplay. Russian helicopters having access, obviously, to the Vikir, which is a faster, much faster missile than the Hellfire. So really Hellfires, or not Hellfires, so really helicopters need a rework, because I can promise you there's not really any way they're going to hold up and contest with modern AA systems we're getting in the game. Especially things like, the IRIS-T and even the SL AMRAAM, SLAMRAAM. We're going to have, it's going to have access to the 9X, it's going to have access to the C5. I mean, there's really not a whole lot helicopters can do. All of these more modern AA systems, I mean, already American helicopters struggle against things like the Pantsir, and we're now getting completely new, more modern systems. It really is, how are helicopters going to remain something that's actually not even that it's just something that remains worth playing, but remains something that can actually be usable in ground RP. For a very long time, helicopters have been long overdue for a major rework anyways. I mean, we have them in one major game mode, and that's ground RP, and then they have their own, which is the Heli PvE, but that's a system that needs to be reworked entirely. I think for helicopters to remain competitive in ground RP, at least, they need a couple of things to help them out. One, I think they could really do with new weapon systems. I'm going to be having another video coming out here in the future talking about weapon systems on board some of the US helicopters. As far as Russian helicopters go, they're kind of going to be stuck to, they have the Vikir. I mean, I think they're going to be better off than American counterparts for that reason. The Vikir is a much faster air-to-ground missile than the Hellfire. I think if we get the AGM-114L, which is a fire and forget version of the Hellfire, that would be really, really good for American helis. I'm not necessarily too worried about the Eurocopter or even the AH-60, the Attackhawk for Israel. They have fire and forget missiles that are going to just perform actually really, really good against the launcher and against the actual radar systems on these new AA. I think those helicopters will be fine. But like I said, my big worry is the Russian and American helicopters that don't have fire and forget missiles right now. Obviously, I think Gaijin overdid it with the issue being CAS was too broken, and now they've added superb SPAA, and now the issue is the SPAA is too broken. There's always going to be a fine line of balancing. I'm not saying helicopters are going to be able to go toe-to-toe with modern AA systems, but I think they need more systems to make them better, and so they actually can kind of hold their own. And no helicopter is really made to be able to go toe-to-toe with a modern AA system. I'm not saying that. I understand that, running a Ka-52 against like a the SLM RAM or against an Iris T system. The system should win. I'm not denying that. All I'm saying is, for game, for the game reason, I really think the helicopters, if they can get their more modern stuff, it'd be very, very nice. I think it'd definitely allow them to be more enjoyable. I understand ground RB players who main tanks are probably like, what is this man on? Like, they don't. I know some of these guys don't want helicopters actually in ground RB, but look at it from helicopter players' perspective. They don't really have anything, and now with more modern AA coming, it's kind of like, what are you supposed to do? I do want to know what your guys' thoughts are down below in the comments. I'm going to try to understand what's that fine line of balancing for helicopters, and how is Gaijin going to make sure helicopters can remain something that are playable. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Also, let me know what your guys' favorite helicopter is down below. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We're trying to hit 15,000 subscribers. And also join the Discord that is linked down below in the description. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you guys in a later video.